Ready to hand over the encryption keys? Elias Monroe stood in my doorway, coffee in hand, smirk plastered across his 26-year-old face. 3 weeks ago, he'd been a junior developer who couldn't debug a simple API call without Googling every step. Today, he was lead architect of Aether Neural Systems because his father, Marcus Monroe, was the CEO, and I was supposed to report to him now. I looked at Elias, looked at the office I'd worked in for 12 years, looked at the codebase I'd written from the first line to the last, 47 million lines of proprietary artificial intelligence that powered a $5 billion company. Then I smiled. No, Elias, I'm not here to hand over anything. His smirk flickered. I'm here to initiate the kill switch. The color drained from his face. What kill switch? I turned to my keyboard, entered a sequence that only 3 people on Earth knew existed. The one your father should have asked about before he decided I was expendable. The screen flashed red. System override initiated. Authorization, Chen Sarah, original architect. Proprietary code extraction in progress. Elias dropped his coffee, and somewhere upstairs, Marcus Monroe's phone started ringing with calls that would never stop. Before I explain how I dismantled a $5 billion empire line by line, if you appreciate stories about founders who refuse to be erased and corporations that learn the cost of betrayal, hit that subscribe button and tap the like button right now. You need to witness what happened next. My name is Sarah Chen. I was 43 years old when Marcus Monroe decided his son deserved my life's work. 12 years earlier, I was a 31-year-old machine learning researcher with a PhD from MIT, a stack of rejected grant applications, and an idea that the entire academic establishment called impossible. The idea was adaptive neural architecture, AI systems that could fundamentally restructure their own learning pathways in real time, mimicking the neuroplasticity of the human brain. Traditional AI was static. You trained a model, deployed it, and it stayed frozen. My approach allowed artificial intelligence to continuously evolve, adapting to new data without retraining from scratch. Every professor I pitched dismissed it. Theoretically interesting, but computationally infeasible. The resource requirements would be astronomical. Maybe in 20 years, Dr. Chen. I didn't have 20 years. I had a garage, a server I'd built from salvaged components, and enough stubborn determination to prove them all wrong.
For 3 years, I coded alone, slept 4 hours a night, survived on instant noodles and obsessive focus. By year 2, I developed the core algorithm, what I called the Aether framework, a mathematical structure that enabled dynamic neural reconfiguration with minimal computational overhead. It worked, not just theoretically, actually worked. I demonstrated the prototype to myself at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, watching my system learn and adapt in ways that shouldn't have been possible. I cried. Then I kept coding. By year 3, I had a functional platform, rudimentary but powerful, the foundation for everything that would follow. That's when Marcus Monroe appeared. Marcus was a venture capitalist who'd made his fortune in enterprise software. He'd heard about my work through a former MIT colleague who'd finally acknowledged what I'd built. Our first meeting was at a coffee shop in Palo Alto. Marcus was 52 then, silver-haired, charismatic, the kind of man who made you feel like the center of the universe when he focused his attention on you. Dr. Chen, what you've created is extraordinary. Thank you. It's also completely unmarketable in its current form. I bristled. The technology speaks for itself. Technology doesn't speak, people do. And you need someone who can translate your brilliance into a language investors and customers understand. What are you proposing? Marcus leaned forward. A partnership. I provide the business infrastructure, capital, connections, commercial strategy. You provide the technological vision. Together, we build something neither of us could build alone. And the ownership structure? 50-50. Equal partners. I won't pretend to understand your code, and you won't pretend to enjoy board meetings. We stay in our lanes. It sounded reasonable. Too reasonable, maybe. What's the catch? Marcus smiled. The catch is that this will consume both our lives for the next decade. Building something from nothing always does. The question is whether you're willing to sacrifice everything for the chance to change the world. I thought about my garage, my instant noodles, my 3 years of solitary obsession. I've already sacrificed everything. What's another decade? We shook hands. Aether Neural Systems was born. The first 5 years were exactly what Marcus promised: total consumption. We raised $23 million in Series A funding, hired our first engineers, built out the Aether framework into a commercial platform. I worked 18-hour days, wrote code, reviewed code, debugged code, documented the architecture in obsessive detail, creating technical specifications that ran thousands of pages. Marcus handled everything else: investor relations, client acquisition, the endless meetings and negotiations that made my brain ache. The division worked. By year 5, Aether Neural had 200 employees, $89 million in annual revenue, and contracts with Fortune 500 companies who used our adaptive AI for everything from fraud detection to supply chain optimization. By year 8, we'd expanded globally, offices in London, Singapore, Sao Paulo, revenue exceeding $400 million, valuation approaching $2 billion. By year 10, we went public. IPO price, $47 per share. Market capitalization on opening day, $3.1 billion. By year 12, Aether Neural was valued at $5.2 billion, and I was still writing code. Not because I had to, we had 340 engineers by then, but because the core architecture remained mine. The Aether framework that powered everything, the encryption protocols that protected our clients' data, the proprietary algorithms that competitors spent billions trying to replicate. Every critical system traced back to my original work. I was irreplaceable, or so I thought. Marcus's son, Elias, joined Aether Neural during year 11. He was 25 then. Stanford computer science degree, legacy admission, I later learned, no meaningful work experience, no demonstrated aptitude for AI development, but he was Marcus's son. Just find him a role, Marcus said when he informed me of the hire, something in product development. Let him learn the ropes. I assigned Elias to a junior position in our implementation team, basic integration work, client-facing support. He was mediocre at best. His code was sloppy, his understanding of our architecture was superficial, he had the confidence of someone who'd never been told no, combined with the competence of someone who'd never needed to try. I documented his performance issues, provided feedback, tried to mentor him toward improvement. Nothing worked. Elias didn't want to improve, he wanted to arrive. By month 6, he was complaining to Marcus about his limited role. By month 9, he was attending executive meetings he hadn't been invited to. By month 11, he was positioning himself as the heir apparent to a technical throne he didn't understand. And Marcus listened. The announcement came without warning. Company-wide email, subject line, Leadership Evolution. As we prepare for Aether Neural's next phase of growth, I'm pleased to announce a restructuring of our technical leadership. Elias Monroe will assume the role of lead architect, overseeing all core platform development. Sarah Chen will transition to a strategic advisory capacity, supporting Elias's vision for our technical future. I read it 3 times. Strategic advisory capacity.
After 12 years of building every critical system in the company, I was being sidelined for a 26-year-old who couldn't explain our basic architecture without reading from a cheat sheet.
I walked into Marcus's office without knocking. "Explain this." Marcus looked up from his laptop. His expression was the careful neutrality of someone who'd anticipated this confrontation. "Sarah, I understand this is surprising." "Surprising? You're replacing me with your son, your incompetent, unqualified son." "I'm not replacing you. I'm evolving your role. You've been in the technical trenches for 12 years. It's time to step back. Let new leadership take the wheel." New leadership? Elias can't debug a memory leak without supervision. Last week, he committed code that crashed our staging environment for 6 hours. "He's learning. You'll help him learn." "I'll help him." I stopped, stared at Marcus. "That's it, isn't it? You want me to train him, transfer my knowledge, make him appear competent while I fade into the background." Marcus's silence was confirmation enough. "When he's ready, when Elias can stand on his own, you'll push me out entirely. Early retirement, generous severance, a nice story about the founder stepping aside for fresh perspectives." "Sarah, that's not—" "It is. It's exactly what this is." I turned toward the door. "This isn't over, Marcus." "Actually, it is. The board approved the restructuring this morning. It's done." I paused. "You should have read my original employment agreement more carefully." "What are you talking about?" "You'll find out." I walked out. That night, I retrieved a document I hadn't looked at in 12 years, the original partnership agreement between Marcus Monroe and Sarah Chen. We'd drafted it ourselves during those early coffee shop meetings, before lawyers got involved, before the company became valuable enough for anyone to care about fine print. Section 12, Intellectual Property Provisions. All proprietary code, algorithms, and technical architectures developed by either partner remain the individual intellectual property of the creating partner, licensed exclusively to Aether Neural Systems for the duration of the partnership. Should either partner's role be materially diminished without mutual consent, the affected partner retains the right to revoke said license with 90 days written notice. Section 12, Paragraph 4. Material diminution includes but is not limited to reduction in title, removal from technical decision-making authority, or subordination to personnel with less seniority or expertise. I read those words 5 times. The Aether framework, every line of foundational code, was mine, licensed to the company, not owned by it, and my role had just been materially diminished. I called my attorney at 11 p.m. Vivian Okafor had handled my legal matters since Aether's Series B funding. Brilliant, meticulous, exactly the person I needed. "Sarah, what's happening?" "They're pushing me out. Marcus promoted his son to lead architect. I'm being demoted to advisory capacity." "Without board approval?" "He claims the board approved this morning. But Vivian, I have the original partnership agreement, Section 12. Silence for a long moment. The IP clause. I remember drafting the revisions. Does it hold up? Sarah, that agreement was signed before Aether was incorporated, before the IPO, before any of the subsequent corporate restructuring. My heart sank. So it's worthless. I didn't say that. The original agreement was never formally superseded. It was rolled into the corporate structure, but the IP provisions were never explicitly voided. What does that mean? It means we have an argument, a strong one. Your foundational code was licensed, not transferred. The company has been operating under that license for 12 years. If the license is revocable, then I can revoke it. Theoretically, but Sarah, the practical implications would be catastrophic. You're talking about pulling the foundational architecture from a $5 billion public company. The legal battle would be enormous. I don't want a legal battle. I want leverage. Leverage for what? I thought about it. About Marcus. About Elias. About 12 years of work being handed to someone who'd done nothing to earn it. Leverage to take back what's mine. I had 90 days before my advisory role officially began. 90 days to prepare. First, I documented everything. Every foundational system I'd built. Every proprietary algorithm. Every piece of code that traced back to my original work. The Aether framework, the adaptive learning protocols, the encryption architecture, the neural pathway optimization systems. 47 million lines of code. Roughly 63% of Aether Neural's entire codebase originated from my work. Without my contributions, the platform would collapse. Not immediately, but inevitably. The interconnections were too deep, the dependencies too fundamental. Second, I identified allies. Not everyone at Aether was loyal to Marcus. Plenty of engineers had watched Elias's incompetence with growing frustration. Plenty of executives questioned whether nepotism was wise strategy for a public company. I had quiet conversations, gauged loyalties, built a network of people who would support me when the moment came. Third, I created the kill switch. Not a literal self-destruct mechanism, that would be illegal, something more elegant. A proprietary code extraction system, built into the architecture from day one, actually, a failsafe I'd designed in case Aether was ever acquired by a company that might misuse the technology. The system could identify and isolate every line of code I authored, tag it, prepare it for removal. It wouldn't destroy anything, it would simply reclaim what was mine. And without my code, Aether Neural would be an empty shell.
Day 87. Elias had been lead architect for 3 months. The results were exactly what I'd predicted. 2 major system failures, a security vulnerability that nearly exposed client data, a botched product update that required emergency rollback, and a growing list of engineer resignations from people who refused to work under someone who didn't understand the technology he was supposed to lead. The board was concerned. Stock price had dropped 11%. Clients were asking uncomfortable questions. And Marcus was looking for scapegoats, anyone except his son. That's when Elias appeared in my doorway. Ready to hand over the encryption keys? He'd been asking for weeks. The encryption architecture was the one system he couldn't access without my authorization. It controlled data security for every client on the platform. Without those keys, Elias couldn't pretend to be lead architect. With them, he could claim complete control. I looked at him. No, Elias, I'm not here to hand over anything. His smirk flickered. I'm here to initiate the kill switch. The extraction took 37 seconds. Not removal, not yet, just identification, tagging, preparation. Every line of code I'd written flagged and ready for reclamation. The system display showed the scope. 47,283,691 lines of proprietary code, 63.2% of total codebase, 100% of core architecture. Elias stared at the screen with dawning horror. What is this? This is my work, Elias. Every algorithm, every protocol, every piece of foundational architecture that makes Aether Neural function. You can't, this is company property. No, it's my property, licensed to the company, a license I'm prepared to revoke. I stood. Get your father, now. Marcus arrived in 11 minutes. He'd clearly been pulled from a board call. His face was flushed, his tie loosened. Sarah, what the hell are you doing? I gestured to the screen. Reading my original partnership agreement, the one you should have reviewed before demoting me. That agreement is 12 years old and still legally binding.
Section 12. All proprietary code remains my intellectual property, licensed exclusively to Aether Neural. License revocable upon material diminution of my role. Marcus's face went gray. You can't seriously. I can and I will, unless we renegotiate. Renegotiate what? I handed him a folder. My terms. Marcus read the document slowly. His hands were trembling by page 3. You want control of the company? I want what I built. No more, no less. You're demanding 51% ownership, which reflects my actual contribution. The foundational technology is mine. The core architecture is mine. Without my work, Aether Neural is a brand name with no product. The board will never approve this. The board will approve whatever prevents a $5 billion company from becoming worthless overnight. Explain to them what happens when I revoke my license. Explain how long it would take to rebuild the architecture from scratch, assuming you could, which you can't. Marcus looked at Elias. And my son? Elias returns to a role appropriate for his experience level, junior developer, with a mentor, someone who can actually teach him what he should have learned before being handed a title he didn't earn. Elias sputtered. That's humiliating. It's realistic. You're not a lead architect, Elias. You're barely a competent programmer. That's not an insult. It's an assessment. If you want to lead technical teams someday, you need to actually understand technology first. I turned back to Marcus. These terms aren't punishment. They're correction. You tried to erase me. You tried to hand my life's work to someone who didn't build it. I'm simply restoring the proper order. And if I refuse? I reached for the keyboard. Then I initiate full extraction. Every line of my code removed from Aether's systems. Your platform becomes non-functional within hours. Your stock becomes worthless within days. And you spend the next decade in litigation while I license my technology to your competitors. Marcus stared at me. For the first time in 12 years, I saw something new in his eyes. Respect. Not the patronizing appreciation he'd always shown. Real respect. The kind reserved for someone who holds all the cards. I need to speak with the board. You have 24 hours. The board approved my terms in 16 hours, not because they wanted to, because they had no choice. Vivian presented the legal analysis. The original agreement was binding. My IP claims were solid. The potential damage from license revocation was incalculable. The math was simple. Give Sarah Chen what she wants or watch everything collapse. The restructuring was announced 3 weeks later. Sarah Chen, founder and chief technology officer, assuming the role of executive chairman, majority ownership stake 51.3%. Marcus Monroe transitioning to non-executive board advisor, minority ownership stake 18.7%. Elias Monroe reassigned to engineering development program, entry-level position with structured mentorship. The press coverage was extensive. Founder reclaims control of AI giant, power shift at Aether Neural, the return of Sarah Chen. Industry analysts praised the move. Investors were relieved. Engineers celebrated openly. The stock price jumped 14% on announcement day. The first board meeting under my leadership was surreal. I sat at the head of a table I'd never been invited to occupy, looked at faces that had approved my demotion 3 months earlier. Let me be clear about how things will work now, I said. This company was built on technical excellence. That will remain our foundation. Promotions will be based on merit. Decisions will be based on data. And nepotism will not be tolerated, regardless of whose family is involved. I looked at Marcus. He was seated at the far end of the table, diminished but present. Everyone in this room will be evaluated on their contributions. Those who add value will be rewarded. Those who don't will be replaced. I paused.
Any questions? Nobody spoke. Good. Let's get to work. 18 months have passed since I reclaimed Aether Neural. The company is thriving. Revenue has grown 37%. Our adaptive AI platform has expanded into healthcare, climate modeling, and autonomous systems. We've filed 43 new patents, all built on the foundation I created in my garage 15 years ago. The engineering team is stronger than ever. I promoted 3 brilliant technologists to senior leadership positions. All of them had been overlooked under Marcus's regime. All of them are exceeding every expectation. Elias is still with the company. He completed the development program, earned his way to a legitimate junior architect position. He's not brilliant, but he's improved, and more importantly, he's humbled. We had coffee last month. Awkward, but necessary. I want to apologize, he said, for how I acted, for expecting to inherit something I hadn't earned. Apology accepted. Now earn it. He nodded. I'm trying. Marcus resigned from the board 6 months ago. He's consulting now, whatever that means for someone whose reputation was built on a foundation he didn't create. We don't speak. Probably never will. Some relationships can't be rebuilt. Some betrayals cut too deep. I kept something from those 90 days of preparation, a screenshot of the extraction system, the moment when 47,283,691 lines of code were tagged and ready for reclamation. It's framed in my office now, not as a trophy, as a reminder. A reminder that my value doesn't depend on someone else's recognition. A reminder that the work I do belongs to me, regardless of what titles I hold or don't hold. A reminder that sometimes you have to be willing to burn everything down to prove what you're worth. People ask me if I regret any of it. The confrontation, the ultimatum, the nuclear option I nearly deployed. I don't. Marcus tried to erase me. He looked at 12 years of dedication, 12 years of building something from nothing, and decided his son deserved it. He forgot something fundamental. I wasn't just an employee. I wasn't just a partner. I was the architect. Every system traced back to my work. Every innovation built on my foundation. Every dollar of value created by technology I designed. You can't erase the architect. You can only forget how much you need them. Marcus forgot. I reminded him. Building something extraordinary requires sacrifice, years of your life, pieces of your soul, the willingness to work when nobody's watching and persist when nobody believes. That sacrifice deserves protection, not just legal protection, though contracts matter, as Marcus learned, psychological protection, the unshakable certainty that your contributions have value, regardless of how others perceive them. Elias Monroe looked at me and saw an obstacle. Marcus Monroe looked at me and saw a replaceable resource. They were both wrong. I was the foundation, the architecture, the reason anything they valued existed at all. And when they tried to build on that foundation without me, it crumbled. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. I was happy to teach them. If this story resonated, if you've ever had your contributions dismissed, your work claimed by others, or your position given to someone who didn't earn it, drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Hit that subscribe button and smash the like button. We share stories like this every week. Founders who reclaimed their legacies, creators who refused to be erased, and people who remembered what they were worth when everyone else forgot. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today, because somewhere out there, another builder is watching their work get handed to someone else's son, and they need to know the architecture belongs to the architect. Always, no matter what titles they try to take away. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.